Today I was going to go over the Savage Hunger Brawl Deck from Throne of Eldraine. It's one of four Brawl decks. I previously did one of these for the a fairy themed deck. Um, this particular theme deck or Brawl deck is black, red, green, and the commander, if you will, is Korvold, Fae-Cursed King. Comes with a deck box that happens to have a lot of extra space because of a spacer. I don't know if they did that just so you could um, possibly have this built from a brawl deck into a commander deck or not. Comes with a spin down type life marker and a divider for the deck box. So we have Chittering Witch. It's a 2/2 creature, human warlock for 3 in a swamp. When Chittering Witch enters the battlefield, create a number of 1/1 black rat creature tokens equal to the number of opponents you have. So, I mean, that'll be good considering um, the commander cares about stuff being sacrificed. And then you can pay 1 in the swamp, sacrifice a creature, target creature gets -2/-2 until end of turn. Taste of Death. It's a sorcery for 4 and 2 swamps. Each player sacrifices 3 creatures. You create 3 food tokens. And the reminder text says there are artifacts with pay to tap, sacrifice this artifact, you gain 3 luck. Next we have Thorn Mammoth. It's a 6/6 creature, an elephant for 5 and 2 forest. It has trample. Whenever Thorn Mammoth or another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Thorn Mammoth fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. So I mean, 6/6 with trample is pretty good, but on its own, might be old. 7 mana might be a lot for that creature, but where it fights another creature, that you don't control, the possibility of, killing off some of your opponent's creatures on a enter the battlefield trigger is pretty good. And it's not just when he enters the battlefield, it's when Thorn Mammoth or another creature you control. So you're potentially fighting multiple creatures over the course of the game to get rid of multiple opponent's creatures. Gluttonous Troll. It's a 3/3 creature, a troll for 2, a swamp, and a forest. It has trample. Whenever Gluttonous Troll enters the battlefield, create a number of food tokens equal to the number of opponents you have. The reminder text says food tokens are artifacts with tap 2 and tap this token, sacrifice this artifact, you gain 3 life. And you can pay 1 in the forest, sacrifice another non-land permanent Luminous Troll gets +2/+2 until end of turn. So I'm not huge on having to sacrifice something for until end of turn um, effect, but at the same point, this deck kind of cares about sacrificing stuff, so hopefully we get a few more cards that give you stuff to be able to consistently sacrifice stuff throughout the game. Priest of Forgotten Gods. It's a 1/2 creature, a human cleric for 1 in the swamp. Tap to sacrifice 2 other creatures. Any number of target players each lose 2 life and sacrifice a creature. You add 2 swamps and draw a card. So, I mean, you're sacrificing 2 creatures, 2 other creatures, so you don't have to sacrifice this guy. You're tapping him to sacrifice 2 other creatures. Opponent each let's see, target player each lose 2 life and sacrifice a creature. So, I mean, you're sacrificing 2 creatures to make your opponent lose life and sacrifice a creature. And then you're also getting 2 swamps and card draw on that. So, I mean, you know, even though you're sacrificing stuff, you get enough net gain to kind of balance it out, I guess. Dead Horde Invasion. It's an enchantment for 1 in the swamp. At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life and amass 1. Put a 1/1 counter on any army you control. If you don't control one, create a 0/0 black zombie army creature token first. Whenever a zombie token you control with power 6 or greater attacks, it gains lifelink until end of turn. So, I mean, you're losing 1 life a turn to put a 1/1 counter on an army, and if it's a zombie, once it hits 6 or more power, it's gaining lifelink when it's attacked, so you could easily gain that um, lost life back pretty quickly if your zombie army lasts long enough to start attacking at 6 life or 6 power. Franco 10th Street Kingpin. It's a 1/2 legendary creature, a goblin for 2 and a mound. Now, where it is a legendary creature, it could be a commander, but only for a mono red deck, and this is a black red green deck, so it couldn't be a commander for this deck. Whenever Credo 10th Street Kingpin attacks, put a 1/1 counter on it. Then create a number of 1/1 goblin creature tokens equal to Credo's power. So for its mana cost, for a convert mana cost of 3, um, this seems like it has the potential to get out of hand real quick. It's putting 1/1 counters on it each turn and then making goblin tokens equal to however much power this guy has. Um, so then having those goblin tokens, you're gonna have stuff to sacrifice for all this stuff in this deck that seems to want you to sacrifice stuff. Judas the Scourge Diva. It's a 2/2 legendary creature, human shaman for 1, a swamp and a mountain. Now where it is legendary, it could be a commander, but only for a black-red deck, and again, this is a black-red-green deck. Other creatures you control get +1/+0. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, Judas the Scorched Diva deals 1 damage to any target. So not only does it buff your creature's attack, if a non-creature token dies, you're dealing, damage, even if it's only 1 damage to any target. So maybe, one of your opponent's 1 toughness guys, or, if your opponent's low on life, that, 1 or 2 damage here and there might be enough right before you attack or right after you attack. Then we have a split card. 1/2 is Find, which is a sorcery that costs either a swamp or a forest and then another swamp or a forest. So convert mana cost a 2 that could be paid in either 2 swamps or 2 forests, or a combination of 1 forest, 1 swamp, depending on what mana you have, what might make more sense. It allows you to return up to 2 target creature cards from your graveyard to your hand. So in something that's a deck that's sacrificing a lot of stuff, you could return 2 permanents that you sacrificed earlier in the game to your hand for 2 mana. The other side of the card is Finality. It's for a swamp and a forest. It's a sorcery. You may put 2 1/1 counters on a creature you control, then all creatures get -4/-4 until end turn. So where it's a split card, it's a one or the other. Then we have Temple of Malady. So land, Temple of Malady enters the battlefield tapped. When Temple of Malady enters the battlefield, scry 1. You tap it to add either a swamp or a forest. Stomping Ground. So land, and it does mention mountain, forest in the type area, so it would be searchable if you had a fetch land that you're sacrificing to search for something and it specifies mountain or forest. You could search for this. It has a reminder text that you tap to add a mountain or a forest. As Stomping Ground enters the battlefield, you may pay 2. If you don't, it enters the battlefield tapped. So I believe those are referred to as pain lands because you can pay 2, which hurts, to have it entered untapped. It's either a pain land or a shock land, I don't recall which. Bake into a Pie. It's an instant for 2 and 2 swamps. Destroy target creature. Create a food token. The reminder text says it's an artifact with pay 2, tap, sacrifice this artifact to gain 3 life. Seer Connor the Grim. It's a 5/4 legendary creature, a human knight for 3 and 2 swamps. So, another legendary creature, but it would only be able to be a commander for a black deck. This is a 3-color deck, so this can't be the commander for this particular deck. Whenever another creature dies or a creature card is put into a graveyard from anywhere other than the battlefield, or a creature card leaves your graveyard, Seer Connor the Grim deals 1 damage to each opponent. So, where this deck kind of has a thing for sacrificing and it's, whenever a creature's dying, whenever a creature card's put into the graveyard from somewhere other than the battlefield, there's a couple of different ways. This guy's dealing 1 damage to your opponent, so, you know, regardless of whether you're sacrificing a creature or you somehow get milled, this guy's pinging your opponent for 1 damage for a creature going to the battlefield, or from going to the graveyard. You can pay 1 in a swamp. Each player puts the top card of their library into their graveyard. So, right there, it has the possibility for, you know, milling a single card for you and your opponent. Um, so, you don't even have to sacrifice creatures. You can just pay 2 to, have it pinging your opponent for you and your opponent milling a card. Keeper of Fables. It's a 4/5 creature, a cat for 3 and 2 forests. Whenever one or more non-human creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. So, I mean, it's good that this deck has, at least 1 or 2 things to allow card draw, because, I mean, if you end up having a handful of um, 1 to 3 mana things, and it's later on in the game, you could potentially, play half your hand or more and then not have a way to draw more than your 1 draw per turn. So, something like this to, you know, draw more cards when you're dealing damage, that's pretty helpful. Savage Hunter. It's a 3/3 creature, a human warrior for 1, a swamp, and a forest. Whenever Savage Hunter attacks or blocks, create a food token. I've already been mentioned it, but it has a reminder text here. It's an artifact with pay 2, tap, sacrifice this artifact, you gain 3 life. You can sacrifice 2 foods to draw a card, so again, kind of plays into the sacrifice theme of the deck and allows you to get card draw. Golden Egg. It's an artifact food for 2. Whenever Golden Egg enters the battlefield, draw a card. You can pay 1, tap, and sacrifice Golden Egg. Add 1 mana of any color, which could be helpful if you, in a 3-color deck, if you had, either 1 or 2 mana types, but you needed a different mana. This could help fix your mana for that one particular instance what you wanted to play. Or you could pay 2, tap, sacrifice Golden Egg, you gain 3 life. Witch's Oven. It's an artifact for 1, tap, sacrifice a creature, create a food token. If sacrificed creature's toughness was 4 or greater, create 2 food tokens instead. Reminder text says there are artifacts with pay 2, tap, sacrifice this artifact, you gain 3 life. Arcane Signet. It's an artifact for 2. You tap to add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color day. So pretty much a staple in most commander decks, or in this case a Brawl deck, which Brawl is just the 60 card version of Commander, which is 100 cards. And Orzhov Enforcer. It's a 1/2 creature, a human rogue for 1 in a swamp. It has Death Touch and Afterlife 1. the reminder text says, whenever this creature dies, create a 1/1 white and black spirit creature token with flying. So, I mean, you have a 1/2 blocker, has death touch, so even though it's small, it'll kill any of your opponent's creatures that, this guy, um, attacks or blocks, and it creates another creature when he dies. So even if have it, attack or block of 8/8, oh, hey, I'm dying, but I'm taking out your 8/8 if it doesn't have indestructible, and because I'm dying, I'm creating another creature. Like, that's kind of helpful. Playcrafter. It's a 3/2 creature, a human shaman for 2 in a swamp. When Playcrafter enters the battlefield, each player sacrifices a creature or a planeswalker. Each player who can't discards a card. So, I mean, it's kind of interesting that it's not just a creature. It sacrifices a creature or a planeswalker, and then a player that can't sacrifice something is discarding a card. So it's kind of helpful in this kind of a deck to level your opponent's battlefield while having to, sacrifice stuff yourself. Vindicate Vampire. It's a 2/3 creature, a vampire for 3 in a swamp. Whenever another creature you control dies, Vindicate Vampire deals 1 damage to each opponent, and you gain a life. So, where this deck has a lot of stuff that wants you sacrificing stuff, this guy would be nice to have out early on, so you're sacrificing to get some kind of benefit to then have this guy ping your opponent for 1 and you gain a life. Blood-Soaked Altar. It's an artifact for 4 and 2 swamps. You can tap, pay 2 life, discard a card, sacrifice a creature, create a 5/5 black demon creature token with flying. Activate this ability only any time you could cast a sorcery. So unless you have something giving your permanents flash, basically where it says activate only as a sorcery, you're only going to be playing it on your turn. Which, where it doesn't have a mana cost, you can play stuff from your hand and then, pay the 2 life, discard a card, sacrifice a creature to make, get a 5/5 flying demon. I mean, life's a resource, but I kind of don't like how you have to pay 2 life, discard a card, and sacrifice a creature. But I guess those 3 things make up for not having to pay a mana cost, so could go either way. I want to say this card might have also been in the Fairy Brawl deck that I went over recently. Goblin Crate Maker. It's a 2/2 creature, a Goblin Warrior for 1 and a mound. Pay 1, sacrifice Goblin Crate Maker. Choose 1. Goblin Crate Maker deals 2 damage to target creature, or destroy target colorless non-land permanent. So I mean, colorless non-land permanent leaves it quite open. It could be, a creature, an enchantment, an artifact, anything that's, uh, not a land and is colorless. Um, or you could deal 2 damage to a target creature, so one of your opponent's small creatures. Rabicus Dragon. It's a 3/3 creature, a dragon for 4 on the mountain. Has flying. When Rapicus dragon enters the battlefield, create 2 treasure tokens. Their artifacts was tap, sacrifice this artifact, add 1 mana of any color. 5 convert mana cost seems like a lot for a 3/3 flyer that, yes, it makes 2 treasure tokens, but it's only making those tokens when it enters the battlefield, so unless you have something to blink this guy in, you're not making, tokens multiple times, so kind of a trade-off. Evolution Sage. It's a 3/2 creature, an elf druid for 2 in the forest. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, proliferate. The reminder text says choose any number of permanents and or players that give each, and then give each another counter of each kind already there. There's not a lot of stuff in this deck that seem to give 1/1 counters or any kind of counters, so unless there's more in the rest of the deck, that almost seems like a mismatch of, having this card in the deck. Paradise Druid. It's a 2/1 creature, an elf druid for 1 in a forest. Paradise Druid has hexproof as long as it's untapped. The reminder text says it can't be the target of spells or abilities your opponent control. And it taps to add 1 of any mana. So, I mean, it's a 2/1 mana dork that happens to have hexproof if it's not tapped, which, it's a mana dork, so you're probably gonna tap it if it's early game to, get stuff out faster. Poland Bright Druid. It's a 1/1 creature, an elf druid for 1 in the forest. When Poland Bright Druid enters the battlefield, choose 1. Put a 1/1 counter on target creature or proliferate. The reminder text says choose any number of permanents and or players, then give each another counter of each kind already there. So that's kind of interesting that, after saying that there wasn't a lot of stuff counters to proliferate when we were talking about Evolution Sage, we did get one more card here. Maybe might get a couple more, but it seems like, a lot of the deck doesn't have too much stuff for counters. Golgari Fine Broker. It's a 3/4 creature, an elf shaman for 2 swamps and 2 forests. So, I mean, it's a lot of symbols. But, you know, by mid game, you probably have 2 of each. When Golgari Finebroker enters the battlefield, return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. So, I mean, it's a creature that's grabbing an artifact, or not an artifact, sorry, grabbing a permanent card from your graveyard to your hand in a deck that cares about sacrificing stuff. That's actually kind of good, on top of it being another creature, so it's a buy on the battlefield that's fetching stuff for you. Death Sprout. It's an instant for 1, 2 swamps, and a forest. Destroy target creature. Search your library for a basic land card. Put it onto the battlefield tapped. Then shuffle your library. So not only are you destroying a creature, and it just says target creature, so it could be your opponent's, and then you're searching your library for a basic land card, so you're um, getting a land thinning your deck, so you have potential better odds of drawing something you want. Overall, it's a pretty decent card. Thrashing Brontodon, the 3/4 creature, a dinosaur for 1 and 2 forest. Tap 1, sacrifice Thrashing Brontodon, destroy target artifact or enchantment. I don't remember if this. I feel like this was in a deck I was talking about recently, but I don't remember which deck. I mean, it's a 3/4 for a convert mana cost of 3 that you have the potential to destroy a artifact or enchantment by sacking this guy, so you definitely get your value out of it. Rhythm of the Wild. It's an enchantment for one a mountain and a forest. Creatures you control can't be countered. Non-creatures you control have Riot. The reminder text says they enter the battlefield with your choice of a 1/1 counter or haste. So, I mean, giving non-token creatures Riot and having your creature spells not be able to be countered, that's pretty good for, only 3 mana. Next we have Leeline Prowler. I have this guy in a couple of different constructed decks I made. It's a 2/3 creature, a Nightmare Beast for 1, a swamp and a forest. Has Death Touch and Lifelink, and it can tap to add 1 mana of any color. So, I mean, it's a pretty powerful mana dork because most mana dorks seem to have 1 power, and then the toughness ranges from 1 to 3. This guy is a 2/3, so higher power than a lot of mana dorks, high end of toughness for mana dorks, has Death Touch and Lifelink, which a lot of mana dorks don't seem to have keywords. In addition to being able to tap for mana, and it's 1 mana of any color, so it's not specific to like, oh hey, tap for this specific kind of mana like some mana dorks do. Mayhem Devil, the 3/3 creature, a devil for 1, a swamp and a mountain. Whenever a player sacrifices a permanent, Devil deals 1 damage to any target. And it says whenever a player, it doesn't specify who. So if you're sacrificing stuff, this guy could deal 1 damage to any target. Could be 1 damage to an opponent's creature, could be 1 damage to your opponent, so you could be sacrificing stuff to benefit from another card, and oh hey, you're at 3 life, well I'm gonna sacrifice 3 things to do 1 damage 3 times to you. Oh, that's game, even though I didn't deal combat damage this turn. Woodland Champion. It's a 2/2 creature, an elf scout for 1 in a forest. Whenever 1 or more token enters the battlefield under your control, put that many 1/1 counters on Woodland Champion. So, I mean, it is another thing that puts counters, given it's on itself. Still not a lot of things in here for that, so I guess there's potential for changing things out, depending on if you wanted to lean more into counters. And I mean, obviously, there's stuff in here that's not specifically leaning into the sacrifice theme, so I mean, depending on which way you want to go, you could add or add and subtract cards to um, go to whichever play style works best for you. Molder, Molder Vine Reclamation. It's an enchantment for 3, a swamp, and a forest. Whenever a creature you control dies, you gain a life and draw a card. So, where you sacrifice a lot of stuff in this deck, um, gaining a life and drawing a card off, your creatures dying is helpful. Angrass, Captain of Chaos. It's a legendary planeswalker, Angrass, that starts with 5 loyalty counters. It costs 2, and then it has split pipes, so it's either a swamp or a mountain, and then another swamp or mountain. So total converted mana cost of 4. Creatures you control have menace. The -2 ability is a -2, which the reminder text says put 2/1/1 counters on an army you control. If you don't control one, create a 0/0 black zombie army creature token first. And we got to the section where it's the basic lands. So there's 6 basic swamps, 2 basic mountains, 6 basic forests, and then we have Bloodfell Cave, which is a land. Bloodfell Cave enters the battlefield tapped. When Bloodfell Cave enters the battlefield, you gain a life. Tap to add a swamp or a mountain. Cryptic Caves. To land, tap to add a colorless or pay 1, tap, sacrifice Cryptic Caves, draw a card. Activate this ability only if you control 5 or more lands. So obviously you're not going to be able to use this for card draw in your first couple of turns, but mid to late game might be helpful if you're running low on cards in your hand. Commander Tower, another one of those staples in either Commander or Brawl. It's a land that taps to add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. Evolving Wilds. It's a land that you tap to sacrifice Evolving Wilds, search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. I mean, I'm not big on stuff that lands that don't tap for mana, but it's used to kind of thin your deck, and where it's searching for basic land, you could either search for a swamp, a mountain, a forest, whichever of the 3 you happen to need. So if you draw this and you only have swamps and mountains, but you don't have any forest, oh look, I have 3 cards in my hand that need a forest, I'm going to search for a forest. Like, it can help in niche situations. Otherwise, I'm really hit or miss on something like this. Golgari Guildgate. It's a land gate. Golgarian Guildgate enters the battlefield tapped. Tap to add a forest or swamp. A swamp or a forest. Gruul Guildgate. It's a land gate. Gruul Guildgate enters the battlefield tapped. Tap to add a mountain or a forest. Jungle Hollows. It's a land. Jungle Hollows enters the battlefield tapped. When Jungle Hollows enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life. Tap to add a swamp or a forest. Rugged Highlands. It's a land rugged Highlands enters the battlefield tapped. When Rugged Highlands enters the battlefield, you gain a life, taps for a mountain or a forest. Radco's Guildgate, it's a land gate. Radco's Guildgate enters the battlefield tapped, tap to add if swamp or mountain. And then at the back of the um, deck is just a random card, not even a card, just kind of like um, card thing that's nothing. So I kind of mentioned the name of the commander, but I forgot to kind of tell you what it does. Korvold, Fae-Cursed King is a 4/4 legendary creature, a dragon noble for 2, a swamp, a mountain, and a forest. It has flying. Whenever Korvold, Fae-Cursed King enters the battlefield or attack, sacrifice another permanent. Whenever you sacrifice a permanent, put a 1/1 counter on Korvold and draw a card. So obviously, where it's a sacrifice themed deck, the commander has that, um, whenever it enters or attacks, you're sacrificing something. Whenever you're sacrificing something, this guy's getting a 1/1. Um, so hopefully you found some value in this. I do have 2 more Brawl decks from Throne of Eldraine to go over, so tune in for some more Magic related videos. Thanks and have a good day.